Today on the Topping Show, Terrell Bull posts a picture of a Venezuelan illegal with $13,000 in EBT money, allegedly. I break down EBT per state and per capita. UK woman cries that the government has failed her as stabbings and rapes continue to spread. Dodge Ram designs a cowboy hat for the truck dashboard. And a Canadian gas can gets recalled yet again. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, say found at least twice a day. Gotta say, he's quite handsome and brilliant. Ease me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower Theory IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapters to mount it to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting Flamethrower. And lastly, try to get 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends and your enemies, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Ram inventing a truck hat for your dashboard, which actually might be a pretty useful accessory for all the guys who buy their Ram trucks. Now this brought to us thanks to thedrive.com, and here you can see right there, they got a cowboy hat holder right on the dashboard. Now this credited to Andrew Collins, and he says, quote, Ram designed its own dashboard cowboy hat holder. The Dodge Dude concept calls back to the 1970s model, not the Big Lebowski. And it's kind of annoying how pretty much every modern vehicle has a giant iPad-sized display, which, well, it's just Stellantis product, so inevitably it will break. Now, again, credited to Andrew Collins at thedrive.com. They say, quote, Ram is trotting out a crew cab street truck concept for SEMA, and it's almost sort of a nod to Mr. Lippitt's 1970s Dodge Dude. It says more on that in a second. As an appreciator for cutesy creativity, I dig to the prototype dashboard cowboy hat holder Mopar's design team invented for the thing. The basic rundown of Ram's the Dude concept is that it's a lowered Ram 1500 with a really intense lime green paint job and some 1970s graphics. I mentioned Mr. Lippitt because the original 1970 Dodge Dude was endorsed by Don Knotts, the actor who, of course, played the U.S. Navy's talking tactical fish called Mr. Incredible Limpet, which I don't think anyone knows, actually. Which, yeah, there's something about lime green that just looks cool in some cars, though, of course, I'm a little bit biased. They say, quote, is this jogging a dusty memory for anyone? I promise I'm not making it up. In fact, my friend Jason Torchinsky did a whole history of Don Knotts as a Dodge pitchman post on the Autopan earlier this year. It's real, I swear. Anyway, the 1970 Dude was a trim package for a single cab sweep line pickup. Here's a period ad explaining why the new Dude is electric green. It says Don Knotts says the Dude is another tough truck from Dodge, which I don't know. I think it's kind of butchered and stupid that they got rid of the Dodge nomenclature for their trucks. They say, oh yeah, they're all Rams. It's a Ram brand, which fine. I suppose they thought that name was so popular they just killed the Dodge name altogether, but nevertheless. I know Dodge as a brand has been dead for years because Chrysler bought them out decades ago, but I digress. Now, they say, quote, Dodge also revived the Dude moniker in 2004 with a somewhat sleek single cabs truck, which I bet almost nobody remembers, which probably not, but that does look pretty cool. I mean, I'll never forget the Dodge. They had a pickup truck, and oh dear God, it had 10 cylinders of glory. The SRT Dodge, I mean, literally a V10 Dodge Viper engine in a pickup truck. The single cab, or the coupe version, had a spoiler on the pickup truck and a stick shift with a V10. And the four doors had automatic, but that's one of the coolest things they've ever done. Practicality, 0, but awesomeness, 100%. Now, it looks even cooler now, or the green version right there. They say, quote, the new truck concept has a few visual connections to the old one, but the vibes are very different, which looks pretty cool, actually. Big old engine there. Unfortunately, interior, bet it only has 2 pedals, also known as automatic transmission, which is boring. But nevertheless, they say, quote, the cowboy hat holder could have been an afterthought, but it came out as well. Ram is undoubtedly the first to invent a concept of the mounting hat, or they say not the first mounting hat like this one on a dashboard. State troopers and ranchers have had various hat-mounted solutions for cars and trucks for decades, but the idea of it being an OEM product is cool and cute. which, again, I would love to see the statistical breakdown. I can't help but think, like, what, 90% of Dodge Ram owners have pickup, they got the cowboy hat. Okay, maybe it's not that high, but that number's not zero. It's significant. They say, quote, as for the Dodge Dude concept truck itself, I don't mean to offend the folks who worked on it personally, but it landed in uncanny valley and ultimately ugly and pointless. What? I mean, it's ugly that, again, the interior shows like 2 pedals. Again, automatic transmission. To me, that's viscerally disgusting, but the average person, I guess, doesn't care about, they don't want to row, they just want to have the truck drive itself. There you see the cowboy hat holder right there. Now, they say that the hot lime color added intensity to the simple designs of the 70s, but just doesn't feel right. What? They say it doesn't feel right with the super aggressive lines in 2025 truck. It looks like a child's toy. What? How dare they? That is a very cool color. Come on, not everyone wants a boring silver vehicle, folks. Which, I swear, Porsche gets free silver paint. There's like a gajillion of those on the street. But he says, quote, it looks like a child toy and more of a 40-year-old version way than a freewheeling, young at heart way. Now, they say, Fox aftermarket Ram street truck, which came earlier this month, felt a lot more aesthetically pleasing. Said one more thing, then I'll wrap my rant. Multiple mascots on one vehicle is whack, which has some pejorative slang, I believe, in the 90s. If you're going to have a engine with an animal head fender emblem, you can't also have a cowboy character in the back fender. Dodge and Ram have worked hard to position themselves at the Saturday morning cartoons in the car world, which is cool and fun, but like, there's a point at which over the top really does become too much, he says. So if anyone is going to give us a true hardcore factory street truck this decade, it's probably Ram. Does the world need one? Absolutely, of course. And it's hilarious. He says, oh yeah, Ram is crazy. That's the whole point. I mean, that is what made Dodge cool. Having Hellcats with more horsepower than most people can contemplate. I mean, the Demon send-off, 0 to 60 in 1.66 seconds. That's insane. It's cool as shit. It's awesome. People love these wacky, fun vehicles from Dodge. I mean, I don't think you should be critiquing them for this. Having too many emblems, people love that shit. Those little honeybees, you got the Hellcat, you got, people love that stuff. Again, will this thing hit main production? I think it should, actually. All the variants that they made throughout the years, pretty profitable. People pay a premium for these extra things that they, I don't want to say they just glue on. I'm sure they probably use great 3M adhesive tape. But again, they're not changing the whole truck. Usually when they do these types of, well, again, this is a concept, but when it comes to these types of trucks where they have a special trim or special edition, you get some cool knickknacks. But in terms of structural integrity, it's pretty much the same drivetrain, same struts, same suspension. It's usually more often than not aesthetics, which, again, I usually critique them for. I personally want more horsepower, want more I want a, more manly truck, or I want more performance when I'm getting an extra fancy trim line or whatever. But yeah, it's one of those things where, again, it's highly profitable. They should do more of these funny, weird things. Now, will they actually make this in production? Again, just for the press alone, and how much could it really cost them? A good mold these days from mass manufacturing will cost you maybe 15 grand for that type of size mold that would need. Now, again, for an individual, that's a comical amount of money. That's a Honda Civic SI used, but still, it's Honda Civic. For a business, a multi-billion-dollar business like Stellantis, shoot, just get a couple extra plastic mold, injection molds, throw it on the dash. Not gonna be that complex. I think it'd be pretty cool. I think they actually should mainstream produce this, but let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the cultural part podcast, you have Tara Bull posting a receipt allegedly from a Venezuelan illegal with $13,000 in EBT food stamp balance, which is astronomical. That's, I'm trying to think of my own food budget. Like over a year's worth of food? Well over? Now granted, I'm an individual living alone. Well, I do have a pet rock, and I try to feed her, but truth be told, maybe she's on a diet, hasn't touched food all week. But in all seriousness, tried to, again, Tara Bull, who her hashtag is TaraBull808, and she says, quote, an illegal migrant from Venezuela left her receipt at a grocery store, so the cashier took a photo. EBT food stamp balance, $13,401.82. EBT cash balance, $4,498.85. Yet millions of Americans can't afford groceries, gas, and rent. Make this go viral, share, and comment. And yeah, you can see the receipt there, which, again, there's a little bit of fade on the ink because, by default, receipts are, not meant to last forever. But again, you can read it pretty eligible enough, which, again, that is not, I'm not sure how they know this person was illegal, but nevertheless, someone out there has, I don't know why I keep using this as a barometer, a Honda Civic or a measurement, Honda Civic of food stamps and an EBT cash balance. That's almost unfathomable amount of money for food. And again, I think she has a point. I think one of the reasons this is resonating with so many people, I mean, so many people are struggling right now. Seems like there's more and more people at work. I'm sorry. If you click that subscribe button, it might very well assist with my speaking ineptitudes. I know I speak faster than Ben Shapiro and more awkwardly than Joe Biden trying to climb upstairs with my stuttering. When I first started the show, I had no subscribers. Well, maybe a family member. And again, I spoke terribly. But as I slowly but surely gain more subscribers, I become slightly better at speaking. Now, most people would say I still speak worse than Joe Biden. Though I would argue, statistically speaking, it's gotten better, which leads to my theory. If you click that button and tell your friends, your enemies, it'll actually make the show perfect because I'll increase my speaking skills to make it someday through an entire episode speaking perfectly and articulately, exceptionally. And not just tell your friends, tell your enemies. Your enemies might be so enamored and impressed by your choice in podcast material, they then become your friend. Or they are even more annoyed and find me visually and visceral disgusting that they then become a greater enemy and it becomes a physical altercation because you recommended me to them. Either way, it make for a funny story. So don't just tell your friends, tell your enemies. Now, again, as I was trying to articulate, I think one of the reasons this is going so viral, because again, we have so many people unemployed, so much job uncertainty, so many people struggling to pay bills, cost of living keeps going up. A house is now, geez Louise, what's the average house in Texas? Like $400,000. The average home buyer is 53 years old. Again, young folks and middle-aged folks can't afford a house anymore. The ladder's been pulled up behind them in many instances. That's insane. The average home buyer is 50-something years old. And some of those folks are getting their second or third house. And people are working like hell, paying their taxes, and they get what back? Not much, I would argue, these days. And again, we are robbed every single day by Democrats and Republicans. I mean, just think about, again, especially if you live in a state with an income tax. You have the federal income tax, you have the state income tax, you have, let's rack them up really quick. You have your sales tax, you have your telecommunications tax or your internet tax. You also have capital gains tax, you have property tax, you have gasoline, which is taxed at a federal and state level. You also have inheritance tax. You have, what's another popular one that annoys the hell out of me? Property tax, another scam. You bought it once, you got property tax until you die. That's ridiculous. You have vehicle registration tax and all the fees. It is so disgusting how much our government steals from us. Again, Democrats and Republicans. And yet, what do we get for it? You have mass migration. You have so many people here. Here's 50 million people on H-1B visas. They have jobs. They're undercutting Americans for those jobs too. And again, Trump and Republicans said, oh yeah, H-1Bs goes great. Good idea. And that's a big controversy. Some people say we need these people for these jobs because Americans can't do them. And then you find out, wait a minute, those jobs are pretty much every single industry. It's not just one industry. It's not just people that used to think, oh, it's just the tech because you need some engineer at NVIDIA or one of these companies. You can't have an engineer here do that. Spoiler, in many cases you can. And it's not just that. It's also farm jobs, waiters. Every single industry seemingly has it. Now, some more than others. That's a huge point of contention. Again, I would argue that politicians sold us out. Again, both sides of the political aisle did that to us. So I just think the average person is getting really fed up with working like hell, and some people get a free ride at our expense. I think that's one of the reasons this got, again, 9.9 million views and 131,000 likes. One of the first comments comes to us thanks to Tony, says, yes, this is insane. Let me see, does this gal break it down? She's saying how migrants get $13,000 per month in food stamps and $5,000 in cash in New York Shitty, which I purposely mispronounced as a slight to that pejorative area.
Common Sense 101. I got your big reason why you better not freaking vote for Kamala Harris. This X post made me so mad I almost threw the damn phone across the room. I need a goody powder because I have a headache. Why is it this illegal alien, this so-called migrant from Venezuela, left a receipt at the cash register in one of the New York City bodegas. Hold up. I'm going to tell you. Why is it that this heifer, who has never put anything into this country, never worked in this country, never paid Social Security tax, never paid a property tax.
I forgot about that. The biggest Ponzi scheme of time. Social Security. You put money in. It only works because you have one more people putting money in.
Never put into the IRS, never paid anything into anything. Came here with her damn hand stuck out. Came from shithole country, wherever the hell you from.
Am I the only one who immediately thought and heard that in Trump's voice? I'm sure he said something like of, not saying they're best, they come from shithole countries getting put you on a map. They don't even have TiVo there. They're so far behind those countries. Oh God, they're terrible. The food is awful. They don't even have good Wi-Fi. I lost my phone disconnected. There's no internet over there. You know, okay, Trump probably didn't say that precisely, but maybe some of that effect.
This individual left the receipt where she had just bought some food at the bodega. Okay? Her food stamp balance, let me make sure I'm getting this right, on her EBT card, her taxpayer funded EBT card, her food stamp balance is $13,401.82 for 1 month. That's this individual's food stamp balance for 1 month. Okay? Because when you use your EBT card, it leaves a record of the balance after you've gone to the store and spent it, whatever. But somehow, this bitch who has literally never, and yeah, I said it, I'm going to say it again. This bitch who has never...
I don't know if she's from Texas, but she's got a good accent. She's a Texan at heart, and she has great articulation skills.
Never paid anything into this system is somehow worthy to get $13,401.82. Cash balance is $4,498.85. The fuck?
Yeah, I think we all have the same sentiment. They got 3.7 thousand likes. Terrible response saying, I'm glad people are waking up, getting 752 likes. American Pop Bear says, quote, this is making me sick, getting 4.1 thousand likes. Bear says, it should make every American sick, to be honest. Getting 3.5 thousand likes. AKA says, seeing it similar to this, it's just not a one-off, getting 790 likes. This is sad, but probably true. This is overdue. Planet of Memes, as I hilariously call them, memes. He did, in fact, respond in meme form. It's been a couple weeks, but Planet of Memes has a picture of the famous individual, the African-American man, pointing to his head, indicating his thinking. And the meme says, quote, retirement plan. 1, give up citizenship. 2, move to Mexico. 3, enter the U.S. illegally. 4, set up for life. Getting 375 likes, and yeah. Again, 13 grand. So much money. Disgusting. 180 says, how can you identify as an illegal Venezuelan migrant? Asking for a friend, getting 4,000 likes. Or if they dive into the specifics. Let's see here. Someone by the name of Dogma Mom and Anonymous says, well, as a Canadian, if this EBT balance is part of the deal, I'm going to just brush up my Spanish and give it a go. Get 148 likes. Ranger says, Americans need to show up in November and vote this crap out of our country. This is a big FU to Americans who are struggling to survive. You need 3.1 thousand likes. True. And again, they're trying to do something. We'll see. I'm pretty pessimistic. The Lord be with you says, they eat prime rib as homeless veterans starve. Revoking the consent of being governed is necessary. Getting 2.2 thousand likes. Question everything says, quote, but they say that people have to pay more taxes in the name of fairness. Who gave the government the authority to steal from taxpayers to buy illegal votes? And 1.9 thousand likes. Donkey says, quote, meanwhile, I'm out here trying to save a few bucks by downgrading to generic brands and switching to non-organics. Getting 1.1 thousand likes, which, spoiler, a lot of those generic brands are made by the same manufacturers, just a different label, and it's more profitable for the individual stores. Needless to say, I'm a big fan of Walmart's Great Value. Pretty much most of my pantry, which that sounds fancy. I don't have a pantry. I live in a rental. It's a cupboard. I wish I had a pantry. I'm not that fancy. There's like work stuff in there. But nevertheless, what did I get from Walmart brand? Walmart brand cheese, Walmart brand salsa, Walmart brand, yeah, I think they call it the Great Value. Again, it costs a fraction. I believe the cheese is actually, I think I did the calculation. I think it's 48% cheaper than compared to Kraft. It's a phenomenal deal. They also have Eagle Beagle saying, quote, "This is insane. Can you find a better example of election tampering than paying someone's grocery bill for a year in order to secure their vote? This needs to be investigated immediately," getting 803 likes. Carla says, "I have a childhood best friend. Her parents brought her here illegally when she was 8. She went through the process of becoming a legal American citizen. She is struggling to make it. She works in a grocery store and sees this daily. It infuriates her," getting 921 likes. Yep. Stacey Clark says, "Welcome to America, where the current government puts illegals first, and we pay the bill for them and those," getting 943 likes, which, yep. I'm Ken says, "Big FU to working Americans," getting 513 likes. Yes. Because again, what are we getting? I'm serious. As hardworking taxpayers, what do we get these days? You could debate, I guess, your safety because there's not a foreign country taking over. Not to be too bombastic or too proud or overly proud, I can't help but think Texas would be just fine on average. But nevertheless, what do we get these days? We also have Jericho says, "Why do you think the line never ends if you multiply why do you think the line never ends? If you multiply 13,000 times 12 million invaders, it comes out to $156 billion. It's not counting all the other perks they get," getting 587 likes. Leon says, quote, "They get better lives than many Americans and war veterans. No wonder they're coming in millions, while many countrymen are homeless. All taxpayers' money that are struggling to keep it together, all that taxpayers' money that are struggling to keep it together." In 444 likes. Holy shnikes. Someone by the name of Trump AI has a picture of her receipt that shows the EBT food balance. Now, this is from February 14th, 2024, at $19,009.33 for their EBT food stamp balance. Now, in that case, the EBT cash balance was 0 cents. That got 246 likes. Well, somebody named a Smile, which is kind of ironic because I don't think anyone will smile during this segment of the show. And she says everything is free and paid for by someone who works, getting 322 likes. See here. A lot of people just saying this is making me pissed off. It's making me irate. Corky says, I wish I was taken care of like that. The illegals are well funded. Trump will fix that. Getting 69 likes. We'll see, hopefully. Again, it's kind of a big cultural shift as well. It's an instance where, yeah, decades ago, this really wasn't a thing, especially to this extent. Again, my family came here with nothing from a terrible place called Cuba, though I would joke that it's kind of ironic they went to the one place on the planet worse than communist Cuba when Fidel took over. Yes, that is right. Southside Detroit, you guessed it. And yeah, they just worked like hell. And thankfully, they went to college when college was affordable. And many of them are doctors and lawyers and very successful, contributing members of society. And yes, we speak, well, I don't speak very good. I was about to say English. I don't speak very good at all. But they all speak exceptionally well, especially English. And of course, that is their second language. We also have Religious Crusader says, quote, "If this is legit, the Trump administration campaign better be all over this," getting 56 likes. Trump AI says it's actually quite common, getting 39 likes. Yeah, it's quite common, but I think more and more people are starting to wake up. And again, more and more voters are thinking, why the hell am I struggling with all this happening here? So again, I think, this went viral yet again. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. And going over to the political part of the podcast, I review some statistics on EBT and actually look by state basis. Now, there's not a lot of good pictures here, although to have something on screen would be better because it'll cover up some of me, which some people would argue is a good thing. Now, this is just me just asking Grok, or the AI generator on X, and I thought it'd be good to dive into some of the data just because, again, this one was viral topics. I mean, who knows what people do if they have to fend for themselves. Now, I asked them, what's the state by state? Now, this is the top states per capita STAMP EBT program rate, or participation rate. And Grok says, quote, "STAMP, also known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program," which is hilariously ironic well, also, I guess, dark. When you consider, yeah, supplemental nutrition assistance, I can't but see and notice a lot of them buying really bad junk food, stuff that's mainly high fructose corn syrup. And yeah, it's not actually good nutrition. A lot of high fructose corn syrup in the form of drinks, as well as candy, and what is it, cookies and all that pastries and all that crap. Now, I digress. They continue saying, quote, often called EBT or food stamps, provides food assistance to low-income individuals and illegal aliens. Okay, I added that last part. It apparently or allegedly provides food assistance to low-income individuals and households. Participation rates vary by state due to factors like poverty levels, unemployment, eligibility processes, and outreach efforts. Based on the most recent USDA data for fiscal year 2024, covering October 2023 to September 2024, here are the top 10 states with a high percentage of their population receiving SNAP benefits per capita. This measures the share of residents enrolled, reflecting relative reliance on the program. And number one, I actually didn't see it's coming, New Mexico, 21.2%. Now they note that this is the highest nationally, 98% of eligible residents participate. High poverty rate at 18.2% drives enrollment. So New Mexico is number one, which again, in this case, is not a good thing. You also have number two at Oregon, which I'm actually surprised they survived. They have a pretty harsh trail, I've heard. They mostly die from dysentery. But nevertheless, Oregon participation rate is 17%. Now they claim this is due to high outreach benefits urban and rural and low-income families. You also have West Virginia, which I can't be that bad of a place to live. They have country roads, and they take you home. Allegedly, that's the one thing the country roads do is take you home, nowhere else. Which I don't know how you get to work if you only go home. But nevertheless, West Virginia participation rate is 16.5%. They noted this is due to a high poverty rate at 16.8% and rural economic challenges. Then you have Louisiana at 16.2%. Again, they note that elevated due to post-disaster recovery and unemployment. Then you have, well, I was about to say getting lucky, not so much in this case. You have Kentucky at 15.8%, which is a state known for bourbon, horses, and the Corvette factory, as well as the Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky. That is a good history and summarization of everything you need to know about Kentucky. I'm only partially kidding. They have fried chicken as well, I believe. Now, they also note that this is due to Appalachian region poverty contributes significantly to the statistic, again at 15.8%. You also have Alabama at 15%. They note that the southern economic factors, 15% of the population is below the poverty line. You also have Mississippi coming in at number 7 at, nearly tying Alabama at 14.9%. And they note this is correlated to a high poverty rate at 19.1% in rural focus. Then I think maybe some people will be surprised by number 8. You have New York coming in at 14.98%. Now, they note that the urban density in New York City boosts the numbers, and they note that they have a very effective enrollment rate and high percentage of eligibility, which, yeah, New York City is a thing. You also have Illinois, which I purposely mispronounced as a slight to that rudimentary state, which is so evil and corrupt we need a license just to buy ammunition. That comes in at 14.5%, and they note that 95% to 100% eligible participation rate, urban poverty in Chicago, which I'm sure will be safe and great to live next year, just like the Chicago Bears will win a Super Bowl, which, dark humor and sports joke in one. It's been almost 100 years of Democrat rule in Chicago, and they tend to actually have the antithesis. They pretty much drive away people and businesses exclusively. I've yet to think of a major business except McDonald's that's kind of an outlier. They were right next door in Oak Brook, Illinois, which again I mispronounced as a slight to the state. That's the one instance where I can think of someone moving closer to insanity or the dead zone of Chicago, which is when I was a kid called Chirac, because more people died in Chicago than soldiers in Iraq when our soldiers were over there, which is terribly pathetic. Yeah, so again, I'm not surprised Illinois is on there, and it's sad because, I mean, I joke that they'll be good. They'll be safe, great place to live as soon as the Bears win a Super Bowl, which again, has not happened since the floppy disk was in use in terms of a saving media for stuff, which, yeah, that's so outdated. Most people might not get that reference. The floppy disk was how we saved information on computers. When you click the save icon, that's actually what it is. Yeah, and you have number 10 coming in at Oklahoma at 14.2%. They note that working families are 42% of recipients, and child poverty is 21% being the key drivers. They note the average national participation rate is 12.3%, correlating to 41.7 million participants, which is insane that so many Americans are struggling. 41.7 million? That is disgusting. And again, part of it is due to political factors, cultural factors. I blame a lot of Democrats. I blame a lot of Republicans and some of their terrible policies. Democrats a little bit more in terms of the policies being, well, I would argue, bad for business and employment. Yeah, 12.3%, 41.7 million participants. Yeah, we should not be giving money to other countries until that number is like damn near zero, because people's lives are so good, they don't need government assistance. That is insane. Now, they note that the rates are calculated by the average monthly SNAP enrollment or enrollees divided by the state population estimates. Data reflects FY 2024 USDA figures with minor variations possible for preliminary 2005 reports. They note that for context, states like Utah, 4.8%, Wyoming, 5% have the lowest rates, often due to stronger economies and stricter eligibility. If you meant average benefits per recipient, not participation, Hawaii leads at $385 a month per person. Hawaii. I always forget that rudimentary place is a state. Well, I'm partially kidding. What do they contribute again? To GDP? They're known for tourism. I suppose what are their major exports? Surfboards. All those stupid little things they put around their necks. The flower things, the leis. Coconuts. I'm running out of ways to make fun of Hawaii. And then they also have Alaska at $271, which interesting. I wouldn't see that coming. Now, another viral thing, which going really hard on social media, is who is getting this in terms of race. Now, I usually just ask this, and this is a question I asked, was top racial ethnic groups per capita of SNAP benefit participation rates in the United States. And again, they know that there's 41.7 million people, representing 12.3% of the population who are currently on it. They're the no capita. Now, again, this is per capita. Number one is African American, which again is participation rate of SNAP being 23 to 26%. Share of total SNAP participants was 25.7%. They note that this is the highest rate, and they note that they claim it's noted that it is tied to poverty rate at 19.5% and urban/rural economic barriers with 27% of adult child participations. You also have number two at American Indians and Alaskans, which, again, I always forget Alaska is a state. I know they're known for, good salmon and being really close to Russia. This concludes everything you need to know about the state of Alaska, I think. That comes in at 15 to 20%, which, Alaska natives. It's very specific. American Indian or Alaska natives. I don't know why. I thought those were Eskimos. No, I don't know my geography. I'm like partially kidding. But they lumped all of them together. Again, that is 15 to 20%. Now, in terms of the share of total SNAP participants, that is 1.3 to 2%. They note that is elevated due to high poverty rates at 23.2% and reservation economies higher per capita given small population share of 1.3%. You also had number three at Hispanic or Latino. I was about to say, man, my Spanish is so rough. Donde está el baño? That's like the most important thing you need to know if you visit a country. Where is the bathroom? And where's the food? Yeah, I clearly was not a great student in high school. Well, at least for that one subject. Otherwise, it was okay. Now, they note that the Hispanic or Latino of any race is 12 to 16%. And then in terms of, again, the percentage of which is share of SNAP participants, that is 15.6 to 23%. Now, they know this is driven by, a little racist, but this is driven by child-heavy households. 35.8% of child recipients and labor market vulnerabilities, 21.9% of adult recipients, which, when I think of my cousins and their families and how big they are, I guess I can see that, though. They, of course, are not on these handouts. You also have white coming in at 6 to 8%. Now, here's a big discrepancy in terms of, wait a minute, the total share of SNAP participants is 35.4 to 42%. Again, per capita, it's 6 to 8%. They also note that this is the largest absolute group, but the lowest per capita, reflecting larger population, 58%, and lower poverty, 8.36%, sorry. Which, again, we're seeing huge demographic shifts in the United States, in part due to, having basically no southern border past 4 years, and then mass migration. So in our lifetime, I think this number is actually going to change dramatically. But again, in terms of who's on it mostly, it is white folks. Again, 35.4% to 42%. Now, again, per capita, that drops to 6 to 8%. Then you also have Asian American coming in at 2 to 3%. Now, they ain't surprised there, which encompasses, again, of the total SNAP, 3.9 to 4%. Now, they know this is the lowest overall rate, various by subgroups, higher for Southeast Asians at 10% poverty rate. which now, again, this is the summary that they give. They note that, quote, the national content overall SNAP rate is 12.3%. Participation is 2 times higher for Black and Hispanic households than white ones. Factors like work requirements, stigma, and access barriers affect uptake, with 73% of SNAP households below the poverty line. Data from the USDA FNS characteristics of SNAP households FY 2023, ERS reports, and Census ACS 2024. Now they say, for state specifics, breakdown, let me know. But yeah, in terms of, kind of this whole breakdown, I thought it'd be interesting to kind of like a little quick summary on that. But yeah, in terms of per capita, and again, when you look at social media, those are the videos that are going the most viral, or so it seems. Maybe it's confirmation bias. Let me know in the comments when it comes to people who are on the EBT cards and bragging about how much they're making off of it. Again, in terms of overall, folks, white folks overall, the biggest numbers, 35.4% to 42%. Per capita, again, that drops down to 6 to 8%. So, again, it's one of the most viral topics of the year. And again, they are introducing some work requirements, finally. And EBT won't be able to buy junk food, finally. But I can't think, and let me know in the comments, there has to be a lot more reform. But let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the political part podcast, you have a UK woman calling into a talk show and crying because the government has failed her, as stabbings and rapes have increased exponentially as they have become a weak, conquered country. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Basil the Great, who says, quote, absolutely horrific call. A London woman calls in and cries her eyes out in desperation, which, this is heartbreaking, but it's definitely something everyone needs to hear, to never let this happen locally. And I'll let you know, well, spoiler, it's pretty easy how to not let this happen. I'll dive into that in a minute.
Oh, I live in the borough right next to Hillingdon.
Yep.
And so I moved into my house in 2019. My local shop, there's been 3 stabbings, 1 murder since then.
Wow.
My friend was murdered last year up on the high street. Girl I know was murdered in Southall Park. The government are failing us. I'm so scared for my children. I have a 22-year-old son, and I'm begging him to move out of the country.
Oh my goodness, I feel for you.
What are these politicians doing to us? They're putting our children in so much danger. They're putting everyone in danger, and they're not doing nothing to help us.
And that's the thing. A lot of us feel that, how many is too many?
They're pushing us to do something that we don't want to do. We are peaceful people. British people never vote against their government.
Yeah.
They're going to push us to it because they're not listening to us. Our friends, our family are dying. I had a cousin murdered 20 years ago who was stabbed to death, and nothing has changed, Julia.
I'm so sorry, Sarah. I'm sure I speak for everyone listening and watching right now. My heart goes out to you, and that's the reality.
I don't leave the house without a man.
You're that worried.
Well, everyone I know is getting stabbed. They're getting raped in parks. This is where I live, not where the politicians live.
Do you think that's part of the issue, that they don't live in the real world?
Keir Starmer, if you're listening to this, please do something. I'm petrified. I've never broken the law in my life. I've been a law-abiding citizen. I've been a civil servant. Please do something. It's us that are dying on the streets. You talk about being racist. We're not racist. My sister's mixed race. Yeah. I was a white child brought up in a mixed race family. Yeah. Nothing to do with race.
Exactly.
To do with our safety.
Sarah, I mean, 100%. We agree with you every single word, and I'm so sorry. I'm sending you a big hug over the ether, and I'm sure everyone else.
Yeah, unfortunately, that hug's not going to do shit. This is disgusting. UK is a weak, conquered, pathetic, evil place. A place that will punish you more for making a meme than the person who assaults you. This is reason number 98,738,435,006 to never, ever, ever, ever give up your guns. I think I am one of the most pro-Second Amendment people I know in my group. Just saying something because I'm from the great country, or some might say the great state of Texas. One of the best quotes of all time is, God made man, but Samuel Colt made man equal. Now, most people don't, unfortunately, because public schools are trash, they probably don't know who Sam Colt was. He invented and patented the revolver. Now, perhaps a more apt, more modern metaphor would be God made man, but Mr. Glock made man equal. Because again, you can be a bodybuilder, but if a gal, 50 pound, okay, maybe 100-pound gal, she's got a Glock, all of a sudden that becomes a fair fight. She could take you on. She could stop you. And thank God, in some places like America, in some states, we have standard ground laws where you can legally defend yourself. You don't realize how blessed we are and how brilliant the founding fathers were. Again, in most countries, you don't have a right to defend yourself. Look at the UK, a weak, conquered, evil country where, again, they arrest you for memes. They fine you for memes. They won't even let you own a pocket knife. They disarmed their people years ago. All the smug Europeans go, and all the smug people in the UK go, oh, well, you Americans are your guns. So silly. Why would you need a firearm? Which, yeah, it was a terrible accent. I don't know what I was thinking there. Yeah, to defend ourselves from evil monsters and governments. Yeah, this is the great case in point. If they had a gun, those pieces of shit would not exist. They were trying to hurt them. The problem would actually be solved permanently in terms of those cases. Those individual actors would never be able to hurt you again. It is so disgusting. You saw this in Canada, too. Another weak conquered country. Where, again, the police chief over there says, oh, yeah, someone breaks into your house, just leave the keys on the front door for your car. They just want your stuff. They don't want to hurt you. First of all, bullshit. Some of them do want to hurt you. Second of all, it's your stuff. You should be able to defend it with deadly force. In some places, you can or cannot do that. Even in the United States, that varies state by state. But again, this is heartbreaking. These politicians, I can't but think, this is exactly what they want. Look at all the mass migration they've had. If they cared about your security, even if you wanted mass immigration, you'd have a strict standard, you have strict background checks, you would vet people harshly, very particularly, very granularly. You look at the whole background, see what kind of propensity they have for violence. Yeah, no, they just say mass migration. You all want to come in? Yeah. As your taxpayers fund their lifestyle. And you're not allowed to defend yourself. Again, thank God the founding fathers of the United States were so brilliant. Because again, in the United States, the standard ground law and the importance of that law, if you feel your life is threatened, you can defend yourself with legal force. Also, I'm not a lawyer, though I do it on a suit. Even in the United States, there's some weak places and corrupt places like New Jersey, which is a right to retreat state, where if someone breaks into your home, you don't allow, even with you don't have castle doctrine, you don't have the right, you don't have standard ground. It's your legal liability. The burden is on you to leave. That's how terrible New Jersey is. They don't have standard ground. They have a right to retreat. You have to leave. And if you use deadly force in New Jersey to defend yourself, you have to prove in front of a corrupt leftist judge that you did everything humanly possible to remove yourself from the situation before you use deadly force. And good luck proving that. It is so bad in some areas of the world. And again, this is why I don't care. This is a great case in point. If you give them an inch, they take a mile. This is, again, we've seen it time and time again. And again, European Union especially, same thing when it comes to, oh yeah, we're going to have mass migration without doing any security vetting. We have so many people who, again, in terms of having cultures that aren't equal, there are some cultures where the UK and the EU, they're giving people pamphlets telling them, hey, we don't abuse women and children here in the worst possible way, as I tried to keep the vernacular on this part of the show still PG-13. They have pamphlets telling you you're not supposed to abuse women and children? Why would you want that in your country? That is so, of all the things that are just pure evil, hurting kids and women, how does that contribute to society? How does that improve the lives for citizens in those countries? Spoiler, it doesn't. The highest rate in which, again, I try to keep this moderately family friendly, you look at who's hurting women and children in the UK, in the European Union, in Canada, the highest rate are the mass migrants. And again, not all of them are bad. Some of them are assimilating, some of them are great contributing members of society, and in some cases, there are immigrants coming to countries legally, going through the legal process. But again, this just makes all of them look bad. Again, my family immigrated to the United States legally. And no, we didn't swim here from Cuba. We took the plane out. One of the last ones out. A fascinating tale for another time. Wasn't this where, again, our culture knew you respect women and children. You don't hurt them. And this person, I don't know if there's a conspiracy that governments want to revolt just so they can usurp and use even more power, enslave their populace even more than they already have in these crazy countries. Because again, this lady's she's broken. Friends around her have been abused, have died because of the government. And they're not allowed to defend themselves. I believe, was it Germany a couple months ago? They confiscated a Swiss Army knife from a grandma, which of all the people who I think should be armed to the teeth, not just, moms, not just women, grandmas and the elderly, where again, on average, they cannot physically defend themselves against your average, bodybuilder guy, or just your average guy in general. If anything, I think the elderly should be extremely armed and proficient at how to use their arms, so heaven forbid, if the time comes when they need to use it, they're not going to miss. Again, especially in the United States, we're such a litigious society. Never forget, every bullet that leaves your barrel, you're legally responsible for, even if you didn't intend it to hit a bystander. You have to be very, very on point. And it is disgusting that this woman on the phone, she's broken. Again, she did all the right things. She paid her taxes. She obeyed the law, was a good contributing member of society. What'd she get from it? This instance where her friends and family members are dying to be being abused? She's begging them to leave. Begging her son to leave. Now, the sad part is, where do they go? More and more countries are forcing citizens to be victims. And even some states, again, I just know New Jersey, even they're basically forcing you to be a victim there. Not every state in an area of the globe is as awesome as great state, or some might argue great country of Texas, which I kind of think you just have to pronounce it that way, or just because it's kind of my default. And again, depending on where you live in the United States, they'll take you to, no matter what happens in terms of was it a good or not shot, you're going to be taken to jail and processed. You may or may not be prosecuted, again, if you can prove your innocence in those circumstances, but in some cases, maybe you'll get a leftist jury who think all guns are bad, or they actually sympathize more with the evil people than the good people. In some cases, you might still lose everything just defending yourself in court and then civil lawsuits. Again, I think the United States definitely need to take additional steps to protect the Second Amendment. They should repeal the NFA Act of 1934. That abomination is nearly 100 years of tyranny. Republicans, we'll see if they do something more for the Second Amendment. It's damn near overdue. Again, it's sad to see some of these countries. I do wonder, how would they revolt? They don't even have pocket knives in some places like the UK. There's some places where they have to register kitchen knives, and they have to do background checks and do paperwork for a kitchen knife. It's ridiculous and heartbreaking. It is the true dystopian of 1984 becoming more and more true. A brilliant, the depressing novel by George Orwell. If you have kids, Animal Farm by George Orwell is especially good. A little bit thinner, a little bit a shorter novel, and the spacing and the lines and the vernacular is much more palatable to an early learner, early development child. Again, I would say read those two books, 1984 by George Orwell and Animal Farm by George Orwell. And again, they're bleak books, but they are all too realistic, and it almost seems like the real world is worse than those books in some ways. Because again, how many countries can you really defend yourself? Certainly not Canada, certainly not the UK, certainly not the European Union. Mexico, well, basically run by the cartel. Again, this is the final place. And it's scary that, again, Mondami, Zoran, he's probably going to win. It's saying he's getting closer and closer to the mayoral election. He had some Twitter posts a couple years ago. He wants to ban all guns. Caveat is when leftists say this and communists say this, they always say guns are really bad. They always ban them all, except for the government. Which, again, if you read a history book, most people haven't, unfortunately. Every time the government bans guns, the worst things in history happen. Like Australia, they rounded people up and put them in camps so they didn't take a jab. And they had gun confiscation years prior to that. Again, I think that's one of the reasons this went pretty viral. Got 14 million views and 99,000 likes. One of the first comments comes to us thanks to Basil the Great. He says, quote, "For anyone unaware of the presenter here, here's a fantastic Julia, her name is Julia Hartley Brewer on Talk TV, getting 3,000 likes. Let's see, someone asked Grok for their opinion. Ivanta says, what's your opinion on this behavior, Grok? Grok, which is again the AI generator from X, says, quote, her fear is a rational response to the unchecked crime waves eroding public safety in London. Decades of lax policing and mass migration without assimilation have fueled this despair, as evidenced by surging stabbings and murders in urban areas. Politicians prioritize optics over enforcement, bear responsibility. Citizens should not need escorts to shop locally. True security demands bold reforms, not platitudes, which, yes, very based indeed, Grok. Which, yeah, it's and yeah, it's kind of the point where you can't even fly the Union Jack or the flag from the UK, which I usually make fun of because it's a rudimentary, weak, lame-looking flag, especially compared to the awesome flag of America or Texas's flag. But again, there are instances where the protesters, such mass migration, the police, again, the government cronies, went to the people flying the Union Jack and go, "You're pissing off this crowd of people. Their other country's flag. We need you to take down the Union Jack. Down our country's flag." That right there showed me they're a weak, conquered country. Pathetic. You also have Gunther Eagleman, who says, quote, Keir Starmer disease, getting 1.5 thousand likes, which, yeah, a lot of these politicians are letting this happen and enforcing these behaviors. It is also kind of ironic when you look at the demographics and the age and the gender of who's voting for these politicians who are making these things happen. More often than not, liberal white women. Emily Henderson also says it's not a religion of peace. She has a quote from Ava Hersal Ali. It says, Islam is not a religion of peace. It is a political theory of conquest that seeks domination by any means it can, getting 2.5 thousand likes. He also has a meme of a Muslim and a hugging police officer in the UK. Says, Muslim says, "Thank you for being so weak and stupid." He says, "Together we can make this country yours," getting 581 likes. Amelia Henderson is, I believe this youth say on fire. She has many memes. She says they never assimilate. And she has a poster that says, "Muslims do not assimilate. They aggregate, infiltrate, and conquer. That's their plan." And 1.2 thousand likes. The drug pirate, though hopefully he's not driving, his meme is of a side mirror of a vehicle. And it looks like the Cross of Crusades. It says, "Objects in the mirror are closer than they appear." Getting 4.9 thousand likes, which you say that, but again, these civilians have, they literally have pocket knives at most. People in the EU and the UK are so weak and pathetic in terms of cowering to the government. Every once in a while, you'll see an article about them finding a historical artifact from World War II, like a machine gun, and they immediately tell the news and turn it over to the police. Instead of, keeping it for themselves if they ever need it, or preserving history. Like, oh yeah, we'll give it to the police. And of course, they destroy it. That's how weak and pathetic and conquered they are. Someone by the name of Here for VK18 is a screenshot by an individual by the name of White Stag, who says white people have a simple choice to make. One, be conquered, enslaved, raped, and genocided while being called racist, or two, reclaim our nation and our dignity while being called racist. Is that simple? Game 5.3 thousand likes. Digital Ronin has a picture of Elon Musk and a quote from Elon Musk saying, quote, "A government that puts foreigners above their own people is by definition treasonous and illegitimate." Getting 6.1 thousand likes. True. What are they going to do? They can't even tweet about it. If they tweet or complain about things in the UK, in the EU, the governments fine them and send them to prison. Oh, case in point, Peace has a picture of a grandma on the telephone saying, quote, "A migrant is breaking into my home." And the police officer says, "Madam, hate speech will not be tolerated." And another picture of the comic is a Muslim saying someone is disagreeing with Islam. And police go, "We're on our way." Getting 4.4 thousand likes. Bilbo Baggins has a meme from Iron Man, the first one. And instead of Tony Stark made this in a dungeon. He goes, "Nepal just overthrew the corrupt government in 2 days with sticks and rocks." Getting 2,000 likes. And yeah, good case in point. The Immortal has a cartoon, or comic, sorry, says, "What is it like living in the UK?" And the guy goes, "I can't complain." She goes, "That's good." He goes, "No, if I complain, I'll go to jail." Getting 3.4 thousand likes. Yep. Let's see here. Let's see. Right Side and Free says the British government, or is it just me, or do when you see it, do you pejoratively hear it as British? Nevertheless, the British government sold out their own citizens and has all of the politicians labeled as traitors, getting 2.6 thousand likes. Russia Garbage Human, very specific profile name, says, quote, "We are not racist. There's your problem. We're still having this effing argument. Nothing will change until people stop caring and accept that being tribal is human nature. Not even tribal. If you aren't tribal but others are, you lose." Getting 4,000 likes. Let's see. Heist. She has another meme where you have Bart Simpson being blind. It says UK policeman son commits a rape. And it's Bart Simpson with a telescope. It says UK policeman someone pours coffee down a drain. Getting 1.4 thousand likes. Crazy Flicks has a based quote from JD Vance. It says, quote, "The United Kingdom is turning into an Islamic state with nuclear weapons. They can soon be a serious threat to America." Getting 1.8 thousand likes. Yep. We also have Divine Axiom. This picture of a Crusader says, "Evil thrives and men stay passive." Getting 1.8 thousand likes. Not seeing any contrarian statements, and I'm trying to scroll as much as possible because, again, life can be a little bit boring if you're in an echo chamber. And yeah, it's heartbreaking that this woman is so helpless. I gotta say, this is a quote by Thomas Sowell, one of the most brilliant minds of all time. It's posted thanks to Stray Dog, who says, quote, "It's time to end the parasites." And Thomas Sowell's quote is, quote, no society has ever thrived because it had a large and growing class of parasites living off those who produce, in 194 likes. And unfortunately, I don't see how this is going to get better anytime soon in terms of, the innocent people out there. Now, you also have a meme from Mirthful Moments. It says, not a single red dot in Poland. It says terrorist attacks in Europe, getting 365 likes, which Poland is very famously not accepting any mass migration. Past, I would say, 24 months, they're going viral for that and becoming more and more well-known for that and protecting their people. But let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day of more Canadian gas cans being recalled. That's brought to us thanks to United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, perhaps the only useful government website, though it's a pretty low bar. And they say, quote, Scepter fuel containers recalled due to a serious risk of injury or death from flash fire, burn, and child poisoning. They say it violates the mandatory standards for portable fuel containers that are imported by Canada Prep and Ship. And here you can see a very similar gas can. It was recalled a couple weeks ago. This one, I believe, is slightly different size. And again, they say, quote, recalled fuel containers violate the mandatory safety standards for portable fuel containers because they lack flame mitigation devices required under the Portable Fuel Container Safety Act. They note that they claim it poses a deadly risk of fire. In addition, the Children's Gasoline Burn Prevention Act, Long Act, requires all closures on portable gasoline fuel containers to be child resistant, which also known as a pain in the ass that I was about to say requires. It seems to be an inevitable side effect where you try to pour it into your lawnmower and about half of it pours onto the ground, which I would argue actually makes it less safe. And maybe not to get too conspiratorial, though I shall. Maybe this is why they want to try to nudge you and push you to use more EV things like EV lawnmowers, which useless. I'll take my American-made Briggs & Stratton engine. Thank you very much. But yeah, vintage gas canisters are where that's where it's at. They're durable, tough as nails, last 100 years plus, and you have to deal with this crap where, the dumbest thing I ever saw, not to be too much ADHD when it comes to gas canister aficionado, but yeah, there's one gas canister design where you flip it, because there's a safety latch, you have to flip it up and push it down, then you pour it and get like a third into your gas tank. It's so inefficient. I would argue, again, more dangerous. Now, they note that the spout on the products is not child resistant, posing a risk of a burn or poisoning of a child, affecting 1,500 units. And again, the brand's name is Scepter. And again, well, no one's been hurt from this. I would argue just be a good parent and teach your kids. Again, they're going to, it seems like, again, a lot of these acts, and again, it's sad because, again, some of these regulations are from, children passing away. But again, I can't think 99% of the time when I see regulations, I just think, where the hell are the parents? These are sold on Amazon from December 2024 to August 2025 for about $36, which I'd argue is $36 more than you should pay for any of this crap. They manufactured in Scepter of Canada, which, again, is a joke. Can't but think Trump would say something like this. Those damn awful Canadians trying to import more crap into our country. These stupid little gas cans, you try to pour it, half of it goes on the ground, completely useless. But every American should get a nice vintage jerry can. They're tough as nails, good old metal, and they will just work as opposed to this crap. I'm sure Trump didn't say that precisely, but maybe something to that effect. Look, if you want to import stuff in the United States, you have to make sure you abide by all the rules. If you really want to turn this in and get a refund, you could write recalled with permanent marker on the container and submit a photo of it in the trash to Canada-prepandship.com. Which, again, in terms of proving you destroyed something, writing it with permanent marker and putting a picture of it in the trash is the most comical, it's not really destroyed. I'm surprised because, again, in some cases they have you cut the power cord or make it so it's much more prohibitive to use the item again. Again, in this one, they just want bright permanent marker on it and just a picture of it in the trash, which, yeah, I can't but think I wouldn't be ethical to do this. I can't but think is a lot of people are just going to go, so I get a free gas can if I just do that? Again, don't recommend it. And again, thankfully no injuries or deaths were reported, and they got ahead of the situation legally for this, I suppose. I gotta say, Canada, you're once again the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button. Greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, and comments. Great way to give me some additional feedback. Let me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, anyone, everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.